Thanks, Sean. Well done. We knew it would be a little awkward asking Lisa to move back into the audience, and we had a couple of concerns as we worked this up. We've been talking about this for the past year, and as Sean mentioned, it's a past student of Lisa's that we asked back in August, September to compose this piece on behalf of Lisa's retirement as a thank you from our band. And Steve Bendick, who some of you in the audience know and have close ties to, is also nephew of one of our flute players here. And Steve asked what composers, even though he was a student of Lisa's, he asked what composers does she like? And we mentioned people like Swearingen and Renke. She also knows, she has a sense of humor, and he worked that into the piece. He was very curious as to how big our band was currently. He had been a member or knew of our band and knew many of the members still within the band. So we had a couple of concerns after we gave this information to Steve, and one was, Lisa plays as a member of our band now, and how are we going to have this chart in our folders while she's sitting beside some of our players? So Steve actually put a false composer's name on it, so his name wouldn't be recognized. And the second issue we had was, how are we going to rehearse this during a season when Lisa's going to play as part of our band? So we thought, end of the season, Lisa gets a little fatigued teaching. She's going to skip some of her rehearsals. Unbeknownst to us, the energy she has right now as she's nearing retirement, she would miss no rehearsals. So I tried to work with her husband, Kent, in the background and say, okay, we have a rehearsal coming up. Can you get her to miss? And he would text me back and go, no, she's coming. We do a little thing called beer after band after our rehearsals, and she has not missed one since she started being a member of our band. In fact, our profits at the bar have gone up because of her. She, in fact, found Kent's phone at one point and said, why are you texting Kevin? What's going on between you and Kevin? And so Kent came up with a good reason. But all in all, apart from asking Gabe to lie to Lisa, because the one real big rehearsal we had to work this up was when Fatty and Lisa were down with their students in Disney. So we used the opportunity during that missed rehearsal to focus just on this piece. And Lisa reliably texted Gabe and said, how are you doing? You're working on the roadshow music? And Gabe goes, yes, we're working on that. And the following week when the roadshow came up and Lisa was conducting, we had seen none of that music. We had worked on this piece during that rehearsal. So this was all going on behind the scenes, unbeknownst to Lisa. So just as Lisa's done, Steve gave us some notes that I'm going to pass on to you as to what he was thinking as he put together his piece in her honor called Blue Riff. And so knowing her taste in music, he wrote this piece with an intent to present some struggle. And so the piece tries to become more bluesy and struggles as it works into the piece. You can hear the harmony begin to evolve in the measures 9 to 11 at the beginning before being dragged back a bit. And the strict eighth note melody begins to put itself together in measure 25 and gain more traditional blues harmony. But by measure 52, it almost completely becomes a blues motive, but gets dragged back a bit when the big bad brass come in at measure 60. By the time the full 12-bar blues is stated, the piece slows down into a more lyrical moment before jumping back into the 12-bar blues, with the tenor sax solo being played by one of Lisa's former students, Kelly Oliver, who Steve knew was still in the band and wrote the piece, the solo with Kelly in mind to play that tenor sax solo. The vivace is the final attempt to pull away from the blues, but the trumpets and flute chords at the end sort of get the final word. So without further ado, conducted by a former student, Gabe Lurie, tenor solo by a former student, Kelly Oliver, and written by a former student, Steve Bendick, Blue Riff.